So many people are fixated on the camera body and the lens thinking that's what's going to make you a profitable photographer. The reality is you actually need so many other bits of equipment. So if you over invest in this, there's going to be no money left for all the stuff that actually makes you money. So let me show you what I'm carrying on set as a commercial photographer in Melbourne, Australia. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It feels so weird saying that, and I've been having a bit of an existential crisis filming this video because I'm meant to be talking to you, the crowd out there on YouTube, but it's just me here in this spare room of mine talking to my iPhone at the moment. It just feels weird. But that aside, I wanted to do, this is essentially, what's in my camera bag or, what gear I'm using in 2025. As a commercial photographer, it's nowhere near as sexy as some of the YouTube camera influencers. This is gear that I use every single day. It's battered and beaten. Some of it's old, some of it I've had for over a decade. But this is what I use every day on set, and this is what makes me a living, essentially. Everyone gets fixated on the camera and the lens, what camera do you use, what lens should I buy? And so many people overcapitalize in the camera body and the lens. And the problem is you need so many other bits and pieces to truly make it as a photographer. And if you overinvest and capitalize on that, you're not going to be able to diversify and have all the other nuancey bits of equipment. So when it comes to your camera body, we could talk about cameras all day. I'm not a very technical focused photographer. I'm not going to sit here and split hairs on all the little different nuances between the bodies. I go with what works. I go with what feels built well, what feels like it's gonna, be able to carry me through a shoot. So I guess let's start with the camera body I use. I use the Canon R5. This is my workhorse. This is what I do 99.9% of my shoots on. Prior to the R5, I had the R6, which I loved. I had no issues with the R6. I don't do a lot of video, so I know there's overheating issues, but that doesn't really apply to me because I'm mostly using it for stills. The R6 was a great camera. Honestly, I couldn't fault it. The reason I upgraded to the R5 is I was traveling to Iceland and Norway, and I wanted to be able to capture those beautiful landscapes and have the megapixels to be able to blow things up really big. So I thought, it was time to sort of upgrade to something with a lot more size in it. So that's the only reason I upgraded to the Canon R5. I am a Canon girl. I've always been a Canon girl. I've tried Sony's. My best friend has Nikon. I don't think it matters, honestly. It's whatever feels intuitive to you. If you pick it up and it feels good in your hands, use that. So many photographers get really caught up with I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on YouTube this early, but I call it a pissing contest. Basically a lot of photographers buy gear to impress other photographers. Your client doesn't really care. They just want to make sure that you're taking good photos and that you're fulfilling the brief. So, having the latest and greatest, I could rock up to set with a Hasselblad or a Canon 60D from 10 years ago. My client wouldn't know the difference. So that being said, I would love a Hasselblad, but that's a story for another day. So anyway, that's my main camera body. At the moment, I have got my 24mm prime. Now again, I bought this lens for my trip over to Iceland and Norway to be able to capture those landscapes. And I'll be honest, I was influenced by Peter McKinnon with this one. He goes on and on and on about how the 24 was his favorite prime. Now, this is an EF. You'll see on my R5, I have the EF to RF adapter. I buy the EF lenses because I already had some and I didn't want to have two different things and have to be taking adapters on and off. And to be honest, the EFs are still brilliant, they're still beautiful, and they're considerably cheaper. And I'm not really going to just sell everything to only buy everything for triple the price. That doesn't make sense commercially. So it is the EF. This is the, the Series 2. 24, this is the 1. I think it's a 1.4, yeah, 1.4. But yeah, Peter McKinnon was going on and on about this being his favorite lens. I do like it, but I never use it, if I'm honest. It came out in Iceland and Norway, and it doesn't come out a lot other than that. You guys can't see it, it's all out of frame, but I have got so much gear in front of me, it's ridiculous. This is my 24-70, the old trusty, the old faithful. I think most photographers have this in their kit, and to be honest, this is the lens you'll use 99% of your shoots. Like, it's a brilliant lens. It does everything you could want it to do. It's a zoom lens, and yeah, there's nothing you can't use this for. This lens is brilliant. Again, this is EF. It's the Series 2, I think. Series 2? Are you the Series 2? Yes, you are. And 2.8. I shoot the bulk of my work on this just because it's convenient. You know, shifting between, say, I usually shoot somewhere from 35 to 50. Sometimes I'll go to 70 if I want to get a little bit closer, but that is my workhorse. These things are built tough, and that is what is on my camera 99% of the time. This is my favorite lens. This is the EF prime lens, the 85. This is a 1.2. This thing is a beast. It's super heavy, and I love it. But the problem is, I don't use it very often. It is such a beautiful lens. It has the most beautiful bokeh, and every time I pull it out, I'm like, but it's impractical, you know. 85 is a pretty tight way to shoot, particularly for indoors, so I don't use it a lot. I use it predominantly outdoors, and unfortunately, I'm indoors for most of my commercial shoots, but when I get the opportunity to use this, I'll actually chuck some photos up on screen to show you what this bad boy is capable of. I think, actually, even these photos up here, yeah, they're all shot with 85s. I told you, it's my favorite. I love this one. I love it outside, and yeah, if you were to invest in a prime, it's hard to say this. I don't want to give you guys camera advice. Again, you gotta shoot with what you feel like what feels intuitive for you, but man, you can't go past the 85. All right, this bad boy. This one I find is the one that impresses your clients. This is the 70 to 200, and I know the RF version is a lot more compact since obviously the Sony G Master. This is an old lens. I think they're like 15 years old. This is a Series 2. This is a workhorse. This thing is amazing, abominable. Like, it's just abominable. I was saying that like it's a good thing. I think that's the right word. Abominable snowman. Anyway, if I'm wrong, let me know. Again, beautiful lens, workhorse, great for outdoors. I will use this indoors on fashion shoots if I'm trying to get like a little bit of a closer portrait, and I don't want that compression in the, also I do want the compression, but I don't want the distortion in the face. It takes incredible photos. But again, 70 to 200, you need to stand back. It's a telephoto lens. So do I use this all the time? No, I don't. But I have started shooting weddings recently, and just on that, wedding lenses, I always have a prime with me just in case, but these are the two go-tos for my weddings. All right, next one is a lens I rarely use, but when I do use it, it does a great job. This is my macro. This is the original 100mm. This is EF. This thing's so old, but it does a great job. There is an L series version. It's a lot more expensive than this, and given how infrequently I use it, there's honestly no reason for me to invest in something a lot more expensive, because it's just not the kind of photography I do. And that's the biggest thing I cannot stress with you guys. Like, when it comes to buying gear, buy gear that you can use for 90% of your shoots. There will be occasions like weddings, if I want to take flat lays and close-ups, I'll use this. But that's like a handful of occasions throughout the year. Most of my stuff, as I said, is 24 to 70. So not a bad lens, but not something I use too frequently. All right, next up is a lens that I started my career on. This is the pancake lens, the Nifty 50 as we call it, a 50mm prime. Now, this is the entry-level model. This is actually the RF version. It's the only RF lens I have. And that's because 2 weeks ago, when I was shooting a wedding, my car was broken into, and in my gear bag was my L series f1.2 50mm. And that was my favorite lens, and a lens that I had used so much. It was the first proper lens I bought, and it looked like it'd been through a meat grinder. I had dropped it, and it was beaten, but I still loved it, and I used it often when I was in wedding shoots. And unfortunately, my lighting bag got stolen and a whole bunch of other things, and so did that lens. And given I use it so often, it's just one of those things I always reach for. When it comes to all this gear, this is gear I do take with me. The only thing I don't take with me is my macro. I have got my big Pelican case. All of this sits in there. I rock up on set with this gear with me so that I'm ready for anything that the shoot throws at me. This is, God, this is awkward. This is my Pelican case. This is the, see, I'm not technical. I don't know what anything's called. This is the 1510 Pelican case. It has got wheels. They're probably filthy. and it's got a little top handle, and it's also got, what do you call that? That thing. And this is what I predominantly carry my gear in, and I think I can open it because there's nothing inside, so nothing's gonna fall out at me. This is so awkward. Okay, so that's what it looks like inside. My whole life flashed before my eyes then. That was terrifying. This is what it looks like inside, and this is what I take to most of my shoots. So this thing, all right, you need to go away. You're too heavy. This is waterproof. It keeps everything nice and safe, and I can also take it on the plane if I need to travel. The only thing is, it is heavy. So if you're with one of those airlines that weighs your carry-on, don't be taking this one with you. When I can't take my wheelie case, when it's not appropriate to, or if we need to go for a bit of a walk to get to the set, like if we're shooting on location, or I'm traveling internationally, I do have the Wondred backpack. I'm going to task myself with linking all of this in the description box, and I'm going to remember to do that. But if I don't, please remind me. I will remember. I'm a professional. I will do this. So this is the Wondred backpack, and it's pretty rough. I've had this a while now. I think I've had this 5 years, 6 years. It's an expensive bag, but definitely worth the investment. Whenever I go overseas, this is what I take with me. It's waterproof. It's got a whole lot of accessories, but I love it because, you know, it can get bigger and bigger the more you stuff in it, which, to be fair, since I was doing this YouTube video, I should probably like set things up better. But you get me, right? So you can just keep shoving things in there, and it packs a lot in it, enough to give you back problems in the future. But highly, highly recommend this backpack if you need something. But for the most part, as I said, I use a Pelican case. All right, moving on to lighting gear. Now, lighting is something I'm incredibly passionate about. I really, really care about lighting with my photography. Now, first thing I'm going to show you guys is the flash that I use. This is the Godox V1, the Canon version, and I can't fault this thing. It's great, it's amazing, it's powerful enough, it recycles quickly. I don't particularly like the direct camera flash. I know that's the trend right now to shoot people like old school, paparazzi style. That's not my taste. I often, if I'm using it, I'll bounce it from the roof, I'll bounce it from walls, but I also like to just mount it on some stands and just use it as I would a strobe. So highly recommend these guys, and they're really affordable too. So, and I have dropped it a couple of times and it still works, so I'm just saying, they're built tough. Now, as I mentioned, my bag got stolen from my car, so did the trigger and the charger for that, conveniently. Not convenient for me. And I recently just upgraded my lights because stolen, and this was the trigger that came with my new Godox lights, and I've just learned that this trigger also fires that flash. So silver linings, you take the wins where you find them. These are the strobes I used for the longest time. I had 3 of them. These are Jinbei. They are a Chinese company. This is all I could afford back when I bought these to 2019. And for 2 lights, the gear bag, 2 stands, and 2 soft boxes, I think it was like, I want to say $1,200, which was very affordable considering what you got for it. Really good bang for your buck. Sadly, as I said, my bag got stolen, so 2 of the lights are gone, as well as the stands and all the other bits and pieces. So I just have the 1, but thankfully, silver linings, still have a trigger. Obviously, if you're going to start doing these big shoots where you need a lot more capacity, then you can start talking pro photo and broncolor, but for most people, this is plenty sufficient. And this is what I mean about not getting caught up in gear. Sure, there are far more expensive lighting options. They're better made, they're built tougher, they're waterproof. But if you don't really need them, why would you invest that money? You know, I went to a broncolor launch in Melbourne. When I asked them how much the basics were, it was like $60,000. So I won't be spending that, you know what I'm saying? These are my new lights. These are the Godox SK402V. I haven't used them yet. They literally just arrived this week. I wasn't able to get the Jinbeis that I already have. Unfortunately, they're on back order. I needed gear immediately because I have a shoot tomorrow. So this is sort of what I bought. I did do a lot of research. It was in the price point. I got 2 of these, 2 stands, the lighting bag, 2 soft boxes for 1800, and the trigger. So as I said, silver linings, this trigger works with my flash and these two strobes. 400 watts, that's more than sufficient for what I do. These are actually a lot heavier than the Jimbei ones. They feel a little bit more sturdy. I can't say how they work yet because I literally haven't used them. I'm gonna overlay the next video here because there's no way I'm dragging this bag up into my studio. This is my gear bag. So this came with my new lights. This is the Godox wheelie bag for my lights. In here, I've got C-stands, I've got extension cords, I've got power boards, all my clamps, all my bits and bobs. As you can see, this thing's huge. It takes up a lot of room in my car, but also very convenient. I don't do a whole lot of drone photography. I love drones, I love the idea of drones. I'd love to get into FPV, but I feel like that would actually make me want to vomit. I'm not someone that does great with simulators, so I don't know, wearing the goggles and stuff, I don't know, we'll have to see. But this is the Mini 3 Pro. This is a couple of years old now. I bought this to go, again, to Iceland. And I was a little bit nervous because a lot of places now, they don't want you flying drones for obvious reasons. People wreak havoc with them. This is under 250 grams, it's really light, but it takes great photos. And the only challenge I found is it didn't love the Iceland winds, but other than that, so far, it's been amazing. And as I said, you know, would I like the bigger one? Sure. I'm not gonna sink my money into it because I just don't pull it out of my gear bag too often. But when I do, this is a nifty little guide to carry around. All right, next very important item is obviously a tripod. This is a Manfrotto. What model are you? I can't even read. 290 Joule, made in Italy. Manfrotto are the best. They are heavy, they are expensive, they are worth it. Buy one good tripod, you'll have it the rest of your life. All right, next up is filters, and sadly, I did have a lot more than this. I had the Peter McKinnon ones, and they are no longer with me, thanks to some teenage thugs. So this is the last one I have left, which is kind of heartbreaking because all my good ones got taken. I think this is newer. This is a newer CPL, which I use often. CPLs help with reflections, cars, water, things like that, reflective surfaces. This is a great one. I just bought a nicer version and I don't want to think about it because it's going to make me cry. All right, next up, I told you, this is the unsexy stuff. This is the stuff that no one talks about, but I cannot work without gaff tape or duct tape. And this is actually from my boyfriend. This is 100-mile-an-hour tape. This is from the automotive industry, but pretty much the same as gaff tape. And I use this to basically tighten up anything that needs to be tightened and also to secure cables because that is a real hazard, particularly on set. Next, clamps. There is no such thing as too many clamps. I've got, honestly, hundreds of these of all different sizes scattered around different gear bags. They're honestly there to save you when things break, because things always break. The bane of every photographer's existence, tether cables. Honestly, I've never met a tether cable I don't want to strangle someone with. I hate them. They're awful. They never work. They always fail on you, but alas, we need them. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is soft boxes. And again, I'm a lighting junkie. I have got so many soft boxes, but there are only two that I take to every single shoot. Because to be honest, when it comes to my commercial shoots, I shoot predominantly personal branding, weddings, and also fashion portraiture. I know what kind of lighting I like, and I can shape that light using my V-flats or these two soft boxes that I always have with me. The first one is my beauty dish. I love my beauty dish. I use it all the time, and I know you can get grids for them. I don't actually have a grid for it. Maybe I'll get one eventually. I do have another layer of diffusion that I very rarely put on top. I just use it like this. I love the catch light it gives me in the eyes. I like how it gives me a lot of contrast, particularly in the blacks. And this is something I use when I have a really sharp portrait or just take some really nice strong photos. But if you have someone who has quite a lot of texture in their skin, maybe they've got acne scars, they've got big pores, maybe there's someone who's a little bit more mature and they have a few more fine lines, this is not the most flattering light you can use, which is why this is my gargantuan Octabox. This is the Nanlite 150 parabolic softbox. This is my go-to softbox for ultra flattering light. It's really big, which means you get beautiful light saturation across the subject, and the fall off is really subtle. It's not dramatic, It's really flattering for most people. Women love this. I feel like it takes 10 years off their age, and that's exactly what they want to hear on set. But this is the softbox I predominantly use. The next bit of kit that I'm going to show you guys is my Nanlite FC500C. Now this thing is very heavy. Why is everything in photography so heavy? This is like a prerequisite. If you want good gear, it should have some weight to it, you know what I mean? Who needs a gym? Just be a photographer. This is a colored RGB continuous light, and this is something I've been taking on set a lot more recently. Reason being, with continuous light, you can see exactly where the light is, you know exactly how the set's looking. Strobes are great, but you only see them if you've got the modeling light on or you're obviously firing the flash. And because I'm doing a lot more video now, particularly BTS for YouTube and Instagram, I want to be able to have good lighting on set so that things look good for video. So I carry this a lot now. Right now I'm currently using my FC500B and it's only at 15%. These lights are incredibly powerful. You can obviously use them a lot further away. This is like about 1.5 meters from my face at the moment. So this is the light itself. It is quite heavy, and essentially you mount it. Didn't plan this very well, did I? You mount it to your stand like this, and this light is incredibly powerful. I've never used it higher than like 40%, otherwise you're gonna blind some people. But you can change the color mode, you can make it any color you want in the EGB. You can make it any color you want. It's RGB, and I just like it to add a bit of extra color to my shoots, do something a bit creative. But this is an amazing piece of kit. They are very expensive, they're not a small investment, but I do feel like it's something that if you're someone that's doing a little bit of photography and a little bit of video, you cannot go past these Nanlites. All right, now let's get into tech. And the two things I have with me all the time is this trusty old iPad. This is from 2019, and I use this to help my client to visualize. So I'll have their mood board on this, I'll access Pinterest if I need to, and I use it as more of like it's just the easier way to show people bits and pieces. This always comes on set with me. Last but not least is my trusty MacBook. This is the M2, this is the 15-inch, this is fully spec'd. I put as much into this as I could because I want this computer to last me as long as possible. Obviously Mac products are incredibly expensive, so I try to future-proof it as much as I can. This goes without saying. This is my memory card case. In there are a bunch of memory cards that are missing. So I have a system when it comes to my memory cards. I have a lot. This little guy is off Amazon. It was cheap, but it's great. I've had a lot of these pouches over the years. This one I just found really nifty, and it's slimline, fits everything in it. Something else I have been using a lot of, obviously with the RF, it takes the CF Express cards. I have got 2 of these bad boys. These are 256 by a company called Homan. Homan are fairly new to the industry, and I was lucky enough to be gifted these, which is very nice of them, and they're amazing. I can't speak higher of these. All right, next thing that I have in my camera bag all the time to make my life easier is my camera harness. Looks like bondage gear, feels like bondage gear if I'm honest. Not that I would know that feels like, but that's kind of what it is. So this is from the company Violet May. I think they're based in Queensland. And I like this one. I just wanted something that looked a bit different to the traditional tan leather ones. White I thought was really classy, because I'm a classy gal. Speaking of second bodies, I sold my other R6, so predominantly I use my R5, but I do have this guy with me. This is my very first DSLR. This guy is very sentimental. He has been through it. This guy and I have been to war many times. Still works amazing. This is the 5D Mark III. I bought this, God, I feel so old saying this. I want to say like 11 years ago, so a while ago now. And we have taken so many photos together. I still love it. But if I need to shoot a wedding, I actually opt for this guy now because I just couldn't justify having the R6 and the R5, given that I probably use the R6 3 times a year. It just doesn't make sense, right? So this guy I'm never selling. It's sentimental. I've kept it for obvious reasons. So if I ever need a second body, I'll use this. Next bit of equipment that I use all the time are my DJI Action 4s. I have 3 of them, thanks to my beautiful partner. And these are what I use for BTS. These are what I use to shoot our podcast, The Oddcast. And this is also what I predominantly shoot a lot of YouTube on. I'm currently shooting this on my iPhone, which is the, I think I've got the 14 Pro Max. And I just thought I'd try that to see how it works. Now look, if YouTube does well and I get to a point where I'm like, hey, this is like worth me investing in now, I'll probably set up something like a Sony because I know they're so much better with video. When it comes to gear, I'm someone that really thinks about how I'm going to use it and if I'll use it a lot. And I don't like wasting money on things like this that I barely use. I'm not trying to impress anyone with my gear. I'm trying to impress them with the work that I put out there. As I said, this is the unsexy stuff that people don't show you, but this is what you actually need to do your job. And if I'm on set and I don't have this stuff, I feel very discombobulated. Speaking of unsexy, this is my little baggie of bits and bobs that I need on set. And in here I have things like spare batteries, AAAs, AA's, because all remotes and flashes need these bits and bobs. I've got these guys which allow me to plug my SD cards into my iPhone if I just want to edit something quickly. Actually, that's my iPad, that's my iPhone. They're really nifty. Camera wipes for lenses. I never use that, I just use my t-shirt. Who actually uses those? Gaff tape, because always. Tripod plates. Unfortunately, these things are known to go walkabouts, so I have spares. And again, little clampies. These are really useful for like helping with clothing, making sure things fit, getting any loose edges, nifty. A brush. I don't know why I have that, but it's there. Ah, these little, I was gonna say Ziploc, these aren't Ziploc. I don't know, I actually don't know what you call these, but they're the little Velcro things that you put around your cords to keep them all tidy. They are nifty, because if there's one thing I don't tolerate, it's loose cords everywhere. So those, that's about it. Next up, 5-in-1 reflectors. You guys have seen these a million times. They have 5 different ways: black, white, gold, silver, and sheer. What do you call that? Diffusion. And these are nifty, obvious reasons. I always have one in the car, I always have one in my gear bag, just for when I need a little bit of extra fill, or I need a bounce, or I just want to take some light away from the scene. Always need a 5-in-1. The next thing I'm going to show you guys are my other 5-in-1. This is a much bigger one. I use this when I can't use my foam or styrofoam V-flats that I have at the studio. So I'm someone that relies heavily on using my polyboards or V-flats. Everyone calls them something different. My V-flats aren't easy to travel with, so this is what I use when I need to have the same effect. This Manfrotto one, it's black on one side, white on the other. It is a bit cumbersome, but it is really useful. It does exactly the same thing. It folds down really easily. The other thing I have is this fold down scrim. Again, I do love to use a scrim. However, some of these things stay at the studio. They're just too hard to carry around. So if I'm lucky enough to have someone on set with me that can hold this, I do love to use this big scrim when I'm trying to help someone in midday sun. You know, I actually detest shooting with overhead lighting, but unfortunately, the way commercial shoots work, you can't always dictate the time of day that you're shooting. So these are things that I always have with me without fail. That, guys, is my gear. There seems like a lot, and I want to really emphasize this. I didn't go out and buy this all in one day. This is an accumulation over a decade of shooting. And there's a lot of things that I bought because, you know, I got influenced by camera influencers on YouTube that I don't necessarily need. And as you can see, there's a lot of kit that I use every day, and there's other things that are just there for the odd chance I might need it for this more obscure brief. When it comes to shooting weddings, I do need a bit more specific gear, whether it's the flashes, the macro lens. But for most of my commercial work, it's a very simple setup. All the other bits and bobs are there just to make sure that I'm not wasting anyone's time. When you've got models, you've got the studios being hired, you know, it's time sensitive. The last thing you want to do is rock up and not be prepared. So whilst it might seem like a little bit overwhelming, a lot of this stuff is just there in case. I want to make sure my client feels like I've given them their full attention. I'm not mucking around. I'm not going, oh no, like I don't have that spare cord. I couldn't think of anything worse. So in my gear bag as well, there is extension leads, there's power boards, there's, you know, spare gaff tape, more clamps, just in case. I like to be prepared. So this is a bit of a different video for me. I just wanted to show you guys what I work with and how it works. And I know a lot of people can get caught up with having the latest and greatest, but you really don't need it. At the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you're servicing your client and delivering what they asked you for. And you can do that quite economically without having the top of the range cameras. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, share it if you'd like. I'm new to the YouTube thing and I want to do a lot more of it. And if you guys are enjoying the content, I will. And if you have any feedback, any suggestions, put them in the comments below and I will get back to you guys. But for now, that's it. And I'll see you in the next one.